Why is it that you look at some personal brands and for some damn reason you feel an instant pull towards them? You can't explain it. Maybe you've even just watched one of their damn videos, but for some reason you just trust them. Well, actually, that's not an accident. After analyzing thousands of personal brands and working one-on-one with entrepreneurs inside the School of Hard Knocks, I found the three things that separate the brands that people are drawn to from the ones that people scroll right past. So let's get into it. There's three elements here, and the first one is language. Language is super important. It's the difference between you attracting your target audience and someone completely different. But why is it that language matters? Well, to attract the right audience, your content should act like a mirror to reflect their pains and desires. If you're not talking to their pains and their desires, they're not going to feel like they're spoken to. Matter of fact, if you use the wrong language and vocabulary, they're not going to feel a pull. They're not going to feel like you're speaking to them. And to prove it, here's a study. Researchers gave two groups of people identical job listings. They were the same role, the same everything. However, version A, job listing A, used masculine words like competitive and dominant, while version B, although it was the exact same job listing, it just had words like collaborative and supportive. But for some reason, women couldn't explain it. They were not attracted to version A at all. They felt like it wasn't for them, but they were very much attracted to version B. Why is that? Because we spoke to their language, we spoke to their desires, we spoke to their pains. They want a collaborative, supportive environment, not a competitive and dominant one. People gravitate towards content that they feel is written for them. So here's how it translates. Let's say you make a video. If I want to attract people that are in a job and making money, and I make a video about how I was broke and drowning in debt and I couldn't pay rent, I'm going to attract people that are probably broke and are probably drowning in debt and probably can't afford whatever it is I'm selling. However, if I change the language slightly and say I was wasting my income, I didn't have a clear strategy, in that case, I'm going to attract people who have an income and maybe don't have a clear strategy. Obviously, that's not that in depth, but you get the point. It's super important here, guys, that you pick and choose part of your story wisely. If you were broke and you were drowning in debt, you don't have to say that specifically because you're going to attract a lot of people who have that mentality or who are in that position. Element number 2 of a magnetic personal brand is perception. Perception is the lens per se. What's perceive mean? Perception is vital, importante. Perception is literally the lens through which people see your content. So, for example, look at these four gentlemen here. Straight away when you look at this guy, what do you assume? What assumptions do you make in just a split second? Now, how about this guy? Now, how about this guy? Now, how about this guy? Who would you trust? If someone came to you with medical advice, straight away, this guy could be the expert, right? He could be, but you'd probably trust this guy more. Why? Because your perception. You're perceiving this guy based on what he's wearing, based on his face, that he has knowledge. But even though that doesn't actually make any sense. But that's how we are as humans. Psychologists actually ask military officers to rate their soldiers on specific unrelated traits like their physique, their leadership skills, and their intelligence. Funnily enough, on average, these military officers, when they looked at the soldiers, if the soldier had a great physique, they almost always rated that soldier as also having high intelligence and good leadership, even though a great physique is not linked or in any way correlated to having high intelligence or leadership. So what does this mean for your content, sir or madame? Well, if someone's put off by even one thing in your content, that means they're also going to be put off on average by everything else. We saw the guy in the hoodie earlier. For all we know, he could have been a medical expert, but because of how he looked, we didn't perceive him as an authority in the medical field. So for you, if you want to present yourself as an authority, you have to pay attention to your visuals and your language and everything else because they signal your value. If you're trying to be perceived as someone who's knowledgeable, sophisticated, someone who's high ticket, and then you end up coming on camera with an unironed t-shirt, or maybe you just curse every now and again and you just keep cursing, people are not going to perceive you as that authority. So let's take, for example, Iman Gadzhi. He got to the point where he wanted to attract 6- and 7-figure business owners, but he was dressing like this, and there's nothing particularly wrong with that. But he was signaling to 6 and 7 business owners that he wasn't an authority. So what did his team make him do? Well, his team made him firstly grow a beard and then start wearing what the rich would wear. He wore suits, trench coats, and all of this, and it worked. He started attracting them. Now, the third element, and probably the most misunderstood and underrated, is values. Now, not value, values. So in an era now when everyone's kind of talking about similar things, everyone's kind of selling similar things, everyone's spewing the same value and the same information, there's a problem. But thankfully for us, the Roman merchants also had this problem like 2,000 years ago. So like the modern day coach and consultants and experts, the Roman merchants got into a little bit of a pickle. People didn't really trust them. A lot of them were selling similar things, and some of them were honest, and a lot of them actually weren't so honest. And because of that, they were all bulked together as people who were not to be trusted. There was a certain type of merchant though who didn't get that stereotype. And that was the merchant who frequently communicated their character, their values, and their track record. This merchant literally outsold the merchants who just sold and just gave value. So in the modern age where everyone's giving similar value, just giving value actually makes you less valuable. So to counteract this, we need to be making storytelling videos. We need to show our character, our values, our morals, what we stand for and what we stand against. With everyone kind of doing the same thing, that's our biggest differentiator. So to build a magnetic personal brand, you need to speak your target avatar's language. You need to speak to their soul. Talk to their problems, their desires, the things that keep them up at night. Now that's the verbal part, but you also visually need to express and reflect your expertise through your clothing, through your background, through your quality. You need to be seen as the authority by that target audience. And as well as that, you need to be super careful not to fall for the pitfall of thinking, oh yes, transactionally, I just need to give value and people will pay me. Because in the modern day and age of AI where information is everywhere, giving just value makes you less valuable. Right, if you found this helpful and you want to work with me, yours truly, one-on-one to make sure you're building a delicious, a magnetic, a beautiful personal brand for your target avatar and not just a random stranger, DM me the number 551 on Instagram and we can have a quick chat about repositioning your content.